Hello, Tri-Cities, and thank you for joining me on this week's Session Spotlight. This is actually the Session Spotlight Wrap-Up. My name is Matt Murphy, the Government Regional Affairs Director for the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce, and welcome. This is the final Session Spotlight of the year, and this week I'll be discussing various bills and topics. The 2026 short legislative session has concluded, but not before passing a supplemental budget with nearly $2.5 billion in additional spending. The legislature also approved a highly controversial income tax bill this year, though it is likely to be tied up in the courts for several years. Approximately 3,000 bills were introduced during this biennium, but only a small percentage of them will actually become law. I have pulled out 14 bills to highlight. They are actually not necessarily the most important bills discussed, but they all carry significant business implications. So let's move on to this week's spotlight. But before we do, I want to thank the Tire Factory, Hayden Homes, and Great Northwest Transport for their support of this video series as policy engagement partners. As we jump into the wrap-up, we're going to concentrate on 4 strategic areas. We'll talk about some workforce and labor bills, a couple of environment and consumer protection bills, and then some land use legislation. We'll finish with a quick chat on a couple of tax and operations issues. So let's get started. House Bill 1155 deals with non-competition agreements. This bill voids non-competition agreements for all workers in Washington and imposes penalties on employers who try to enforce them, while requiring employers to notify current and former workers that existing non-competes are unenforceable by October of 2027. Businesses lose the ability to use non-competes to retain talent, which may increase turnover, but it also expands the available hiring pool. This bill has passed the legislature and delivered to the governor for signature. House Bill 2107, Notice of Hazards at Construction Work Sites. This bill requires state regulators to notify construction employees within 10 working days if a safety hazard is found during an on-site inspection. This is a beneficial change for construction companies, ensuring they are quickly informed of potential hazards so they can promptly fix unsafe conditions, improve workplace safety, and limit their liability. This bill has become a law and will be effective on June 11th, 2026. House Bill 2105, Immigrant Worker Protections. This bill requires employers to notify workers of federal I-9 record inspections, post multilingual notices about worker rights, and prohibits retaliation against workers who exercise these rights. It also imposes new administrative, posting, and notification compliance burdens on businesses during federal immigration audits. Failure to comply could expose employers to civil damages and investigations by the Attorney General. This bill has passed the legislature and has been sent to the governor for signature. House Bill 2355, Domestic Worker Labor Protections. This legislation requires a minimum wage, overtime pay, written employment agreements, and a minimum notice period for domestic workers. With this bill, care agencies and businesses hiring domestic workers face new wage, hour, and contracting rules with severe penalties from $1,000 to $20,000 for violations. This bill has been signed by the governor and became law effective July 1st, 2027. Senate Bill 5965 deals with retail carryout bags. This bill bans single-use plastic carryout bags statewide, overriding conflicting local laws, and requires a tiered pass-through fee for compliant paper and reusable bags. Retailers would benefit from a single statewide standard instead of a confusing patchwork of local regulations, and they could keep the mandatory customer pass-through fees to cover the higher costs of compliant bags. This bill did not pass and has been stalled in the Senate Rules Committee. House Bill 2271, Post-Consumer Recycled Content. This bill requires minimum post-consumer recycled content for rigid plastic containers and roll carts, reaching up to 30% by 2030, and sets rules for producer registration and labeling. Packaging and plastic manufacturing companies would face strict new sourcing and compliance reporting requirements, with non-compliance resulting in penalties of 30 cents per pound of non-conforming plastics. Once again, fortunately, this bill did not pass but remains stalled in the House Rules Committee. House Bill 2274 deals with commercial electronic mail. This bill prohibits sending commercial emails with false or misleading subject lines based on actual or implied knowledge and adjusts statutory damages for violations. Marketing and retail businesses must exercise increased caution with their email marketing campaigns to avoid liability, though the financial risk is slightly reduced since statutory damages for the recipients are now $100 per violation. This bill has passed the legislature and has been sent to the governor for signature. House Bill 2269 deals with middle housing in unincorporated areas. This legislation allows counties to authorize middle housing developments of up to 4 residential units per lot on parcels previously zoned solely for single-family residences. This significantly increases development and investment opportunities for real estate developers and construction firms by easing restrictive zoning laws and streamlining regulations in rural and unincorporated areas. This bill was signed by the governor and will go into effect on June 11th, 2026. Senate Bill 6026, Residential Development in Commercial Zones. This legislation prevents large cities and counties from excluding residential development in commercial or mixed-use zones and stops them from requiring developers to include ground floor commercial spaces. This bill is a significant benefit for real estate developers as it opens up valuable commercial zoning for residential projects and removes the financial burden of constructing mandatory and often hard-to-lease retail spaces on the ground floor. This bill has passed the legislature and has been delivered to the governor for signature. House Bill 1210, Targeted Urban Area Tax Preferences. This legislation enables cities to expand the duration of tax incentives for clean energy transformation businesses located in targeted urban areas. This provides valuable tax relief and lowers operational costs for clean energy businesses and encourages economic growth. This bill has passed the legislature and has been sent to the governor for signature. House Bill 1345, Detached Accessory Dwelling Units. This bill establishes statewide regulations for detached accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, outside of urban growth areas, limiting them to 1 per parcel with a maximum size of 1,296 square feet. This allows home builders and developers gain a clearer, structured regulatory framework for constructing ADUs in rural areas, unlocking new residential construction opportunities as long as they meet water and sewer standards. This bill has passed the legislature and has been sent to the governor. Senate Bill 6173, Apple Health Employer Assessment. This bill establishes a quarterly financial assessment on employers with employees enrolled in Medicaid to fund the state's health care affordability account. This would impose a direct financial tax burden of nearly $600 and new administrative tracking requirements on businesses that employ large numbers of low-wage workers relying on state Medicaid programs. Fortunately, this bill did not pass and remains stalled in the Senate Ways and Means Committee. House Bill 2458, Washington College Grant. This bill broadens eligibility for Washington College Grant Program to include students enrolled in eligible post-secondary non-degree credential programs starting in the 2027-28 academic year. Although aimed at students, this indirectly benefits businesses by providing financial support for workforce development, potentially increasing the supply of certified, trade-skilled workers to help address labor shortages. Unfortunately, this bill did not pass, but it stalled in the House Appropriations Committee. Well, that's a wrap of this week's Session Spotlight and the 2026 legislative session. Thank you to everyone who stuck with me through this session. We have a few months before they kick it off again, but in the meantime, all members of the House of Representatives are up for re-election, along with about 24 members of the Senate. So make sure you educate yourself on the candidates. Until next year, thank you for joining us, and you can learn more information about Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce legislative activity at www.tricityregionalchamber.com.